What's up everybody, new patch, let's talk business. So, the heroes you see on the screen right now are all the heroes that have received balance changes, so I'll definitely touch on that in a second. Also, the player ladder is now working. Don't forget to reapply your mods. I'm not sure if it will fix the ladder if it's broken for you, but reapply mods, always do that when a new patch is released, the first thing after the patch. So the ladder looks pretty nice. It has a find me button that doesn't work at first, or didn't for me, but it does work if you press like the second time or something. So yeah, it works fine. It shows my place. My MMR right now is 1710, so I suppose it's like from a day ago or two, which is still pretty good. The ladder looks really nice, so good job us too, really nice. For those who don't understand, what does percentile mean? It basically tells you in what top percent you are. So percentile of 95.4 means that I'm in the top 5% of HoN players on the ranked MMR. So if your percentile is like ranked 50, then you're in the top 50%. So just in the half. So as you can see, I kind of suck at mid wars, but I was expecting to suck much more. I mean, I feed in mid wars. I suck at mid wars, and yet it's top 20%, which is not as bad as I thought. Yeah, your player ladder is a really nice thing. Also, Fat Lady Taunt can't show it to you yet because it's not released, but man, I'm gonna buy it right away. Because I have gold that I don't know what to spend on. In other news, people still discuss how their build is perfect and how there's only one build for a hero, which I'm tired of explaining. There's no one build for a hero. It always depends on the game, it always depends on what you want to go. And it also depends on the fact that your MMR is probably lower than mine, and you calling me at 1400 is hilarious. It's hilarious. It's like, oh, you're 1400. That build is so bad. I'm actually 1400 myself. But my build is, well, if your build is better, it could be actually better. I don't know. It could be actually better. Just go and pick Pebbles, for example, and go mid with your build and win and become 1700 because you're obviously better than me. That should be easy, right? Cool. So that is sorted. Let's move on to the actual balance changes. First change was to Luna, her Emerald Lightning. By the way, I actually need some Goyina Pig. So let's get a Tempest from the Hellborn side. There we go, Tempest. So the first skill now stuns 1, 2, 3, 4 targets. So on level 1 of the skill, it only stuns 1 target instead of 2, like it was before. So before it was 2, 3, 3, 4. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't think that this is necessarily a nerf. It kind of is. But what this does is that it makes the build of leveling up your W to the max and grabbing one level of Q and E really good. And I'll explain in a second. So usually when you're playing a Luna, usually you get like power throw on level 1, then you grab one level of Q, then power throw again, then one level of E, then power throw, E just to escape and like Q just to stun, then you level up your ultimate of course, and then you level up your W. So you end up with this 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 1 on level 4. So what this means is that now you only stun 1 target, and it makes it much easier to stun a single person for a longer time with your ultimate. So your ultimate, if used, will make your first skill stun the last unit for twice the duration. So if you only leveled up your first skill once, this means that the last unit will be the first unit. In other words, if you use your ultimate, you can just stun anyone for 2 seconds if the skill is on level 1. Just straight up. Before you could not do that. Or, well, you could do it if the unit was alone, but now you can kind of focus. It's a nerf, but it's not that bad. I mean, if he's surrounded by creeps or something, you can still use your ultimate and Q and stun just him for 2 seconds. So, kind of an buff in the laning phase, I would even say, for early game of Luna, and kind of a nerf for later, perhaps. In a team fight, you maybe want to stun more people, and in higher level games especially, Luna doesn't really get that many levels, so when you're level 7, the rest of your team might as well be like levels 10 and 11, and team fights happening all over the place. That's why you might need it, and that's where it might be a nerf, but I like this change. I don't think it's that bad. It makes Luna a bit easier, I would say, in the laning phase, and Luna is a really great hero picked off really often. I don't know, it's an okay change. Next we have a change for Deadwood. His first skill now lasts for a bit longer on lower levels. Still lasts for 3 seconds in level 4, but on level 1 it now lasts 1.5 seconds, so that's 1.5 seconds, up from 1 second. So it's half a second extra stun on level 1 with your first skill. So, I don't know, we haven't seen Deadwood much lately. I think this buff is needed. The problem with Deadwood is how fast he becomes useless late game. So he really needs a lot of farm if you want to keep him strong. So I kind of like this change. Yeah, that's all I can say. A buff to Deadwood. I'm really not against it. It doesn't buff his main issue he has in pubs, which is his ultimate, which just pretty much destroys people. It only buffs your first skill, which is like, I don't think many people will care too much about this, but I think this is a nice change, and I actually think that Deadwood does need some help. Next we have a change to Draconis, or rather some nerfs. I guess people cried enough for him. What I don't like about these changes is that they will destroy Draconis in pubs. He won't be as good. I mean, the main problem with him is that high level players just stack the Asians and then clear them out, and that's nice and all, but in pubs you don't really get stacks for your carry. So this is going to be a huge nerf to Draconis for pubs, and I suppose an adjustment for competitive play. So what was changed was the range of his first skill. This one, which you can see right here, has been decreased by 100. So now it's 100 shorter. So let's see. Here it's right on the edge. Oh, never mind. Let me move a bit like here. Let's do this. Here, it still kind of works, but it now has 100 less range than before. So if you use it right on the edge where you're running after someone and you kind of use it as a last ditch effort trying to get them, now that has 100 less range. Also, the cast range has been reduced by 50. So this circle you see here, it has been reduced by 50. So as you can see, if I try to cast it on the edge, see it's still inside, but it's not, it's yellow, so you can't cast it. You'll have to walk up closer if you click there. That should not have worked. I guess it was right on the edge. So yeah, now the cast range has been reduced. Basically, your first skill is now has a lower range. Simple as that. The reason the cast range has to be lower than the actual range is against fleeing targets. So for example, when someone is running away, you're running after him. If you click on him to make your hero follow, if the cast range was the same as the actual range, your hero would use the skill right on its edge, so right on this edge, and it would miss simply because while you're casting and while the flame is going out, you use it on the max range, but the target already moved a bit past that, so you would always miss. So it's kind of a coding thing, but yeah, basically a nerf to the first skill, also a nerf to the second skill. It now costs more mana. Instead of just being 60, it's now 60, 70, 80, 90. Which makes leveling up other skills a better build. I prefer to level up Q and W, or at least I did before, simply because I don't like E, because it's damage over time. It doesn't really improve your last hitting, it just pushes the lane, and it makes last hitting easier for the enemy as well. So if it was static damage, I'd like it more, but yeah, perhaps I will start going E now more, but really going E in the lane, the only reason would be just for harassment. But yeah, it's a nerf to Draconis. The increased mana cost will directly nerf how much you can farm on the Asians when they're stacked, since you'll have much less mana to use it now. So that covers those changes. Glacius, 5 damage nerf on his ultimate. Do I agree with it? Yes, Glacius is, or was probably the #1 best support hero in the game, believe it or not. So he has a slow with a huge range, a huge AoE, good damage pushing stop or push stopping skill. His second skill is amazing, pretty much. It can be used on allies to save them, it can be used on enemies, it has one of the longest disabling durations. His third skill is freaking crazy overpowered. Global mana regen, you basically don't have to worry about mana if the Glacius on your team levels this up a lot in the game, so it's pretty good. So ultimate was kind of like the icing on top of the cake for this hero. You didn't use it often, but it was so, the Glacius was already so good of a hero that even if you used your ultimate to just kill a single person, like for example, you gank mid and Tempest is the only hero mid and you have like Gravekeeper, you would just use your ultimate just to kill this one hero. and it would still be worth it because even without his ultimate, Glacius is such a good hero. So, and if you manage to get a portal key and some farming like Shrinking Head, then it would be even more crazy. Also, since the damage has been nerfed by 5, this also affects the Staff of the Master. That damage has also been nerfed by 5. It's kind of an adjustment, so I don't really mind it, but I mean, you don't get Staff of the Master on Glacius unless you're bad. Next change we have to Gravekeeper. His ultimate now has a lower cooldown on later levels, so before it was higher, so it's still the same on level 1, but on level 3 it's now 60 seconds, so allows you to cast your ultimate more and allows you to push more later in the game, I suppose, but the ultimate of Gravekeeper was already kind of always available late game when you needed it. I suppose you can spam it a bit more and be more annoying. It's a really powerful ultimate, so this is definitely a buff to Gravekeeper, but more so a buff to his late game. And his early game is already strong, but yeah, I do think Gravekeeper needed a buff, so I do agree with this change. Next change we have a change to Management. His illusions will, this skill will now only deal 33% or steal only 33% of the mana on illusions. So basically what this means is that if you use Geometer's Bane, each illusion will steal, like, let's say he has 253 mana, 240, so it basically stole around 5 mana, or 4, which is, if you look at the skill, it should burn 16 mana, so 5 mana is about a third of 16, so, and that is what this change was about. This skill will now only steal 33% of the mana on illusion. So this is basically a direct nerf to the Geometer's Bane Mage Bane build. So now getting Geometer's Bane is much worse. It was already pretty bad because Geometer's Bane is a very, very questionable item on melee heroes, because it's really hard for them to get in range. So now, perhaps, if there's nothing really a Geometer's Bane can dispel, if you didn't know when you use it, it does dispel all buffs and debuffs from you, so if you have something like Keeper's Ultimate on you and you're stuck, use Geometer's Bane and you're free. So now, if the enemy team does not have anything that you can dispel with a Geometer's Bane, it will probably be a bad idea to go for this item on Mage Bane in that specific game. But basically, a nerf to Mage Bane, I like this change, but at the same time, Mage Bane is still not nerfed into uselessness, so I'm kind of disappointed. His second skill should have a 60-second cooldown on level 4. On level 1 should have 2-minute cooldown. But I suppose a nerf is a nerf. Next change we have to Myrmidon. He was buffed. His first and second skill both now cost 5 mana less on all levels. So the thing about Myrmidon is that if you look, his attack range is only 450. Which makes him rely on his skills for supporting. So basically, Myrmidon is all about spamming his skills. Even on level 1, you can use your Magic Carp or your first skill 3 times, not counting the mana regions. So basically, a buff to Myrmidon as a support. The problem with Myrmidon, the main problem with him, is that all of his skills are kind of skill shots. So you are pretty much never guaranteed to land your first skill unless you have a stunning partner. So now that has been addressed a bit, you can spam your skills a bit more, a buff to Myrmidon, and I really like it. I really like it. I haven't seen much Myrmidon lately. I think he's a good hero, and I really think he needs its nerf. We'll see him more often. I don't know. He's not really annoying to play against. He's interesting. You can always try and dodge his skills, and if the enemy manages to land them, it's usually your fault or the enemy being really good. So I like this buff. I think this hero does need a buff as a support hero. He is, or at least was, kind of lacking. So that's real nice. And last we have a change to Dark Lady. Her ultimate has been greatly nerfed. So on lower levels it now shrinks the vision, or like the vision reduction is now lower. The radius is now lower, so the circle was bigger before. Also the mana cost is now higher on all levels pretty much. It's not just 75. So just a straight up nerf to her ultimate in a lot of ways. I think it's needed because Dark Lady is ridiculous. I would like to remind people that there are ways to counter Dark Lady, and that is, for example, Parasite stealing her buffs. Her first skill and second skill buffs are stealable. I believe I can demonstrate this in this video. I don't really mind, so let's find Parasite, starting with P. Pharaoh, blah blah blah. Where's Parasite? There we go. Hellborn, let's place him here. Let's give a maximum level. So I'll use my third skill, I'll get the movement speed buff. I'll use my first skill, which will give me Dark Blades, also a buff. And then you can see he steals both buffs from Dark Lady, so that's a counter to her. So another counter, just like Parasite, is an Electrician, which counters Dark Lady. So there do exist counters to Dark Lady. Problem is you rarely get them, because there are so few of them. It's like, okay, Parasite, the second hero was Electrician, and that's pretty much it. You can get Nullfire Blade, and if you have a hero that relies on Nullfire Blade or can get it, then it's a good choice against the Dark Lady. But other than that, yeah, so Dark Lady is kind of an interesting hero. She's really, really strong, but she's also pretty easy to counter if people figure it out. So the ultimate is probably one of the best ultimates in the game, because it just causes everyone to run in a panic. A good placed ultimate can win you the game pretty much, because the enemy team will have absolutely no coordination if you manage to hit a few of them. So a nerf to this skill, I agree with it. I mean, Dark Lady is already really, really strong with her first 3 skills. I don't see the need for her ultimate to also be absolutely broken. So I think everyone will agree that Dark Lady is kind of annoying to play against, especially if you don't have counters and needed a nerf. She's also picked competitively really a lot and banned in almost every game, just like Magebane. So yeah, that's kind of my take on the changes. I agree with pretty much all of them. I really like all of the changes. I think they were all in the right direction, if not enough of a nerf of a buff. Still, a buff is a buff and a nerf is a nerf on a hero that deserves it, even if it's not enough. So really like these changes. So hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you now understand what the new patch had. And I'll see you next time.